Hello everyone. Today we are looking at 10 new and upcoming VR games in 2026 that are already getting a lot of attention. Some look fast and intense, others feel creative, immersive, and full of promise. If you love virtual reality and want to see what could define this year, this list is for you. Crepe Master brings a fun little cooking fantasy into VR and makes it feel active from the very first second. This is not just about making food slowly and casually. It is about speed, rhythm, and keeping control while the kitchen starts getting busier around you. Flipping crepes, preparing orders, and reacting quickly all look like they fit VR really well, because every movement feels like part of the performance. The game also has a bright and charming style that makes it instantly appealing on screen. That matters a lot for a video like this because it looks playful, clean, and easy to enjoy even at a glance. Crepe Master feels like the kind of game that can turn a simple idea into something addictive, energetic, and genuinely fun to watch. Confined, leaving OKB-134 immediately feels darker, heavier, and far more intense than a typical VR experience. From the moment you step into its cold and isolated setting, the game creates that unsettling feeling that something is wrong and getting worse with every step forward. It is the kind of experience that does not rely only on action, but on tension, atmosphere, and the fear of what might be waiting in the next room. That is where VR can make a huge difference, because every corridor, every sound, and every quiet moment feels much closer and much more personal. The industrial sci-fi style also gives the game a very strong identity, making it feel mysterious and oppressive at the same time. Confined, leaving OKB-134 looks like the kind of VR game that pulls players in with pure suspense and keeps them there by making escape feel urgent, risky, and unforgettable. Roboquest VR takes that fast, explosive shooter energy and throws you right into the middle of the action in a way that feels made for virtual reality. Everything looks built around movement, quick reactions, and non-stop combat, so the pace never really lets up. The enemies, the weapons, and the constant pressure make every fight feel aggressive and alive. What makes it exciting is how naturally that roguelite style fits this format, because each run feels like a fresh chance to push harder, move faster, and survive longer. Roboquest VR looks colorful, intense, and packed with momentum, and for players who want a VR shooter that feels sharp, chaotic, and genuinely fun to watch, this one looks like a perfect match. Spymaster instantly stands out because it does not try to overwhelm you with chaos. Instead, it pulls you into a world of stealth, tension, and smart decision-making where every move feels deliberate. This looks like the kind of VR game that wants you to think like a real agent, not just rush forward and react blindly. Sneaking through dangerous spaces, staying unnoticed, and reading the situation before acting gives the whole experience a very different kind of excitement. What makes that especially interesting in VR is the sense of presence. In a game built around secrecy and control, even small actions can feel important when you are physically inside the environment. Looking around corners, staying alert, and managing pressure in close spaces can make the mission feel much more personal and immersive. Spymaster also has that stylish espionage flavor that gives it a strong identity right away. It feels sharp, tactical, and full of quiet danger. For players who enjoy spy themes, stealth mechanics, and slower tension instead of non-stop noise, Spymaster looks like a very promising VR experience with a cool and confident direction. The Lightkeepers feels like a VR adventure built around wonder, mystery, and a world that pulls you in with its atmosphere. Instead of relying on speed or chaos, it seems to focus on discovery and the feeling that every new place has something meaningful hidden inside it. That gives the game a calmer but more magical identity. The Lightkeepers looks charming, immersive, and full of quiet curiosity, and that kind of mood can work beautifully in VR. VMX looks like the kind of VR game that is built entirely around speed, control, and that constant rush of trying to stay one step ahead of the track. From the first moment, it gives off that sharp arcade energy where every turn matters and every movement has to feel clean. What makes it stand out is how naturally motocross-style action can fit virtual reality when the sense of motion is handled well. Leaning into corners, pushing through fast sections, and trying to keep momentum alive can make the whole experience feel much more physical and intense than a standard racing game. VMX also has that competitive, high adrenaline vibe that makes it easy to imagine as both fun to play and exciting to watch. It feels fast, aggressive, and focused on pure movement. And for players who want a VR racing experience with energy and pressure from start to finish, VMX looks like a very strong ride. Forefront looks like the kind of VR shooter that goes big in every direction. This is not a small, slow firefight built around tight spaces and cautious movement. It feels much larger, much louder, and much more focused on full-scale battlefield action, where vehicles, open areas, and team pressure all come together at once. That is what gives it such a strong identity. In VR, that kind of scale can feel even more intense, because you are not just watching the battle unfold. You are inside it, reacting in real time while everything around you starts moving faster. The mix of gunplay, mobility, and large combat scenarios makes Forefront feel ambitious, in a way that instantly grabs attention. It also has that modern military energy that makes every match look dynamic and unpredictable. For players who want a VR game that feels bold, competitive, and packed with action from the first moment to the last, Forefront looks like a serious adrenaline rush. Compass looks like a VR adventure that puts freedom and exploration at the center of the experience. Instead of trapping you in tight spaces or pushing nonstop pressure, it seems to invite you into a much wider world where movement itself becomes part of the thrill. Flying through open environments, discovering new areas, and taking in the scale of the world can make the whole journey feel exciting in a very different way. That is where VR can really elevate a game like this, because the sense of height, motion, and distance becomes much more personal when you are inside it. Compass also has that adventurous tone that makes it feel less like a simple ride and more like a real expedition. It looks immersive, ambitious, and full of momentum. And for players who enjoy exploration, traversal, and the feeling of setting out into the unknown, Compass looks like a very promising VR experience. Plasmaborne looks like a VR experience built around style, tension, and a world that feels strange in the best way possible. There is something immediately intriguing about its atmosphere, because it does not feel ordinary or predictable. It gives off the kind of energy that makes you want to keep moving forward just to understand what this world really is. That mystery is a big part of its appeal. In VR, a game like this can feel even stronger, because every environment feels closer and every moment feels more personal. Plasmaborne looks immersive, unusual, and full of identity, and for players who enjoy sci-fi worlds with a darker edge and a more mysterious vibe, this one feels like a very interesting journey to step into. One More Delve looks like the kind of VR adventure that turns dungeon exploration into something tense, physical, and genuinely exciting. There is a real sense of descent here, like every step deeper into the world brings more risk, more mystery, and more pressure. That alone gives the game a strong hook, because it is not just about moving forward, it is about surviving what waits below. What makes it especially appealing in VR is how naturally that dungeon crawling feeling can become more immersive when you are fully inside the space. Narrow paths, dark corners, and the constant feeling that danger could appear at any moment can make the whole experience feel much more intense. One More Delve looks focused, atmospheric, and full of momentum. And for players who enjoy adventure with a darker edge and a stronger sense of discovery, this feels like a very promising trip underground.